The Sentinel is known to be reliable, fearless, disciplined, consistent, courageous, motivated, and skillful.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
All these qualities start from the mind. Your mind can be your worst enemy or your most powerful weapon.
The world becomes your library to help you become better at your craft.
Is this the dagger?
Learn how to achieve greatness and tap into the Sentinel mindset.
This episode is brought to you by The Arena. The Arena focuses on helping law enforcement and security professionals achieve their ultimate work experience, curriculum, and fitness goals. Visit thearenatoronto.com.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this amazing day. For those of you listening, could this be take two? Because it's that good. I have no idea. But today I got a very special guest. I have someone that came into a forum group that just changed my entire perspective of this thing called Chat GPT. Now, this individual is the CEO of Treefrog Inc. They are a renowned multi-faceted digital transformation agency. And a little bit more about Treefrog. They started deeply investing in AI-based marketing tools, especially Chat GPT, which we're going to be talking about today, with astonishing results. Now, they can help you see opportunities for your business that you may have not already seen, a service that I think is mandatory. And also, I can tell you this, that this person, who goes by the name of Sean Stevens, is not only an incredible CEO, demonstrated CEO, but he's also a creative musician, which I had the opportunity to listen to some of his music, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And at the very end of this show, we're going to have Sean give us a little bit of taste of what makes him so unique. Ladies and gentlemen, please let us welcome Sean Stevens. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing awesome. There's no clapping? We're on stage.
We're going to throw that all that in edit. We're going to put it in post.
Okay, awesome. That's good.
Make it sound like we have a nice crowd here. So Sean, one of the things that I love about what you do is that you're creative. And I love talking to creatives because they just see things in a different way. And the funny thing is, in a past reference where a lot of government, for example, or even legal, they're stuck in this like old way of doing business. Like some of them, do I even need a website? Do I even need to market? Do I even need to do this? And then there's some people that don't even do the technology whatsoever. We're living in a world where technology is moving us. And if we do not jump along with it, it'll get left behind. Okay?
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
so to me, I'm really happy that you're on the show today. We're going to be talking about ChatGPT and how it ties into our industry and the protection industry that deals with everything that we do, from policing to bodyguarding to security to the whole nine, cybersecurity, the whole element. And you did something back in February where you spoke to us about ChatGPT and how fast it was moving. And again, that changed everything about my perception. I remember running up, going right to Matthew, our producer here in the background, saying, "Matthew, do you know what ChatGPT is?" And he's like, "Of course I do." And then schooling me on things that you already told us. So I'm very happy you're here today. And for those listening, why don't we jump into your origin story, right? As to why you have entered into this realm and why it's important for those listening who are looking to maybe jump into this realm.
Origin story. Wow. How much time we have? Like a 7-hour podcast? It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, so I'm the CEO of Treefrog. So Treefrog's a really cool digital transformation agency. Nobody knows what that means, I'll tell you. So 3 major things. One is helping companies grow. So we help people with organizations with branding, website development, and fractional marketing, and help them find leads, help them find sales, help them find new clients. We help companies with system development, so we'll connect systems together and make stuff happen and build apps. And then lastly, we've been in the AI and the innovation space probably for 8 years, building programming languages and other stuff around, so deep technical competencies around that. Okay. But what happened is we've been building all these really cool AI systems for years. And when Chat GPT really sort of hit mainstream in November of last year, well, December, really early December, we just went, this is it. Like this, you really, if you're a deep technical guy and you see what's happening right now, I've said this before, I think this is probably the biggest change in humanity since fire. I mean, I think it's bigger than the internet. It's bigger than electricity. Like this is a massive civilization change. And people are taking advantage of it. It's like electricity. You know, you don't have to take advantage of electricity. You can still or the gas engine. You can still go out and, do all your farming by hand. But if you have a tractor, you can do a lot more, a lot faster, and a lot differently.
Okay.
And so really the question right now is how can we leverage the tool and what is it that we can do? And so we identified that very quickly and went, our entire agency, everything we're doing needs to somehow be related to this. So not only using it internally, obviously to do everything we're doing, but we've just sort of retooled everything we're doing to use AI to help people grow, get efficient, and build cool systems.
Okay, so for those listening, when they hear the word ChatGPT, what exactly is it? Is it something that is like Siri? Is it something that is like a program you got to log on to chatgpt.com? Like, what exactly is it?
No. So there's at least one person out there that has never used it, and there's one person out there that knows way more than I do. Okay. I would say there's no such thing as an expert in this. Yeah. Like, it takes years to become an expert in something, and this has really only been around for like 7-8 months, right? So, and you hear the name Chat GPT, and you think that's a dumb name, but actually, it's a smart name. Okay. So let's pick apart why that is. So there's the chat part, and then there's the GPT. So you're going to be hearing a lot about this. There's more than just them doing what's called GPT type AI, and it stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So let's unpack that so you can have great things to talk about at parties. So number one, you have the pre-trained part. So the pre-trained is, I'm going to pile up a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of whatever that is, documents to make words or sounds or pictures, and I'm going to use that, and I'm going to create an engine out of it. And what that engine, I'm going to use that pile to train it. That's what the pre-trained part is. And that engine is going to generate stuff. So what I generate is something like this. So if I say, later on today, I'm going to pick my kids up from
school,
right? Obviously. Now you could have said the bus, or you could have said Mars, but we all kind of know that should be school. Right. Well, in the pile of information in your brain, that's the next logical thing. You would make a great GPT engine. I hire you for that later if you run out of things to do here.
Right. Yeah, right. There you go.
So here's the thing: is that what that does is I can take sort of any idea and I can ask it for what the next idea should be. So given a string of words, what should the next word be? Right? That's kind of the generative part is. And the transformer part, so this is the GPT part, is if I use the word pot, I love this sort of word. If I'm from Toronto or Vancouver, I use it differently,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
What comes to mind when I say the word pot, right, on this podcast, depending on where you're listening?
Marijuana. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
I was thinking cooking. I don't know about you. So here's the deal. If I take that word and I just try to look for the next optional word, I'm not going to get any ideas coming out. So the transformer bit is looking around to find the ideas, the concepts, like what it should be. So in an image, if I'm looking for a banana, I need to find other things that are like a banana, not a yellow slide. Right. It's something else. And so really conception, like the idea is to train this machine so that it can come out with these ideas in a row. So then the last bit is the chat part. And this is what I'm going to say the genius of OpenAI is they kind of went, let's make something that a human being can interface with that we're used to interfacing with. Effectively Google. So I'm going to just have a web page I can go to, which is chat.openai.com. And what that is just a bar. I can shove in a sentence and it'll start responding from this, what should be the next concept, right? And so we can get into like the engines as they keep on getting bigger and better and, smarter and whatever. But here's the thing, the GPT engine, all these other companies are now coming out with their own engines. So they've taken their own pile of information. There's literally 50 of them that are sort of available. Another example would be Facebook Meta. They came out with one called Llama. They took only from the pile of things that were, open sourced and available to the public, unlike OpenAI that literally used Reddit, which is the armpit of the internet, right? The most horrible. They didn't necessarily use all of Reddit, which then would be a really bad mechanism.
Right.
But Facebook went, look, we're going to be very specific about how we use this. And of course, now you have this different engine that can do different things. So now you have all these engines. I mean, this is not going away. Okay. It's here to stay. And now I can literally write a chapter, write a book, write a poem, write anything almost instantly, faster than I can read it.
So you would call ChatGPT a disruptor?
Beyond disruption. I mean, it's literally going to change people's lives.
Okay, so you mentioned about something that I actually, and I'll tell you what we did. We would pay a service or like I say an expert or professional to put together a policy for us in what we do. For example, a use of force policy, right? And what is our policy? What is our view? Now, typically we've reached out to people. It took them 3 weeks to put together like a 14-page document. Right. And in this specific example here, because we know our topic and we know what to look for, we put it into chat, and within, I think it was 35 seconds, we had the most kick-ass document, and we had a professional expert review it and said, this was really well done. Who did it? Right. And that's what was a blow of my mind. It was like, I cannot believe that it was that accurate. My first question when this happened was, where did it get this information from? And that's my next question to you is there, how does it get fed this information to kind of pull from? Like, is it just like the person that's creating it? Is it a group of people, like scientists? All Jack is kind of like, how does ChatGPT connect to information?
So the truth is, we really don't know. Okay. What we do know is that if we look through that pile or ask it questions. An example is, so my brother-in-law wrote his PhD thesis on hypercritical carbon monoxide. Right. So I asked it, about hypercritical carbon monoxide, and it was able to tell. So we know, because a PhD is the only person who have ever written on that subject matter, that in the pile of stuff that OpenAI trained it on, his PhD was in that pile. So they haven't told us where they got the information, but somebody with a pitchfork, filled up a barn filled with whatever they could find, right. Websites, back to Reddit, books, archives, everything, and used that to train the ideas. Okay. And here's the thing is, it's ChatGPT, the engine, doesn't know how it got there. I like to say, imagine if I took a basketball court and I took a piece of chalk and I used like a table and drew a circle around it and used things and just like drew things, and then it took everything away. What will be left on the floor is the chalk marks. I don't have the original. I don't know what got me there. I just know that it's there. So I have the chalk marks there. And that's kind of what ChatGPT has. It just kind of has all of these things lined up that will enable us to do measurements or spit out generative text later.
Okay, but why is it moving so fast? Like, how were you able to predict in February that in the next 6 months, for example, or as time goes, it's going to continue to advance? It's advancing. It's growing at a like. How are you able to have that intuition and to see it's actually done that? Like, and why is it moving so fast?
Yeah, well, so this giant pile, they kept on piling stuff in. And then what they did is every time you use ChatGPT, this is a huge security issue, actually. Every time I use it, they have the right to look through our information to go train it on in the future. So it's literally kind of learning as it goes. Now, what's interesting is the machine itself, the engine, doesn't technically, teach itself, although it is being taught on the fly. But the pile keeps getting bigger, which they're using to train it. So if you go to ChatGPT 3, which came out in November, and then they said, look, we're just going to keep putting stuff in this pile, and then train a bigger one, and then train a bigger one, and then train a bigger one. And the big thing that happened recently was they said we're gonna allow it to go train itself. And that's what all the news is about, where, we're going to have this unrestricted AI that can go out and train itself on whatever it wants and decide on its own what it's going to do. And that's super crazy dangerous. So now what's happened is that people have agreed to stop training it that way, that we're just going to pile information up and create an engine out of it that is pre-trained.
But can't the wrong people kind of find a way to get into it and to do exactly what you're saying is start training it?
That's a huge problem. So yes, hypothetically, the way they are pre-training it, no. But obviously, why would the Chinese or Russians not come running in and train it with inappropriate stuff? And inside, ChatGPT has been intentionally trained left libertarian and pro-environmental, etc. So if you look at absolutely. And so obviously the Chinese are going to be training it in a different way. Right. So obviously going to get this disparity in different things. Yes. And then, what they're working on now is a sort of giant nanny to look after all these AIs that are doing stuff. I mean, the world's just going crazy at the moment.
So 100% is, and it's getting worse. So Sean, should the average person be concerned from a security standpoint? And security standpoint can mean a lot of things that we use our digital footprints, right, online, right, putting up pictures, writing content. Should a business be concerned from just the opportunity where I'm thinking maybe so simple like hacker, right? Coming in and saying, hey, listen, like we're hearing right now situations of people telling, don't put pictures of your kids online because someone can take them and change their voice and start calling you, Dad, I'm in distress, help me out. Like, you're hearing all this. Like, should I be concerned?
I mean, yes. Wow, that's a lot to unpack. So maybe we could break this down into all sorts of different components. The first is, should you be concerned with using ChatGPT? So, for example, this is a great example. So, you had a contract, for example. We want to create a contract and go to ChatGPT and say, write me a contract for this,
Yeah, write me an RFP.
And write me an RFP, and boom, it's done. And just magic. It's like magic. It's astonishing. Or make me a picture of a person that's doing this. Boom, you have a picture that does it. So one of the problems is if I take my corporate strategy or I take health information or I take my own personal and I put it in, technically, just raw, free ChatGPT version, they're allowed to put it in their pile and train on it later. And so your strategy, your stuff could appear later. So that's one critical security issue, just really baseline. But you can go to ChatGPT if you have the paid version and you can turn that off. So it won't train on your data. And or you can install and use their engine on the side. There's some other ways to get around it, the sort of important stuff. That's like I say, one security issue with GPT or ChatGPT itself. We then, you brought up a bunch of stuff suddenly. The next one is, should I put my kids' pictures online? Like that's a huge step away from ChatGPT, but also important. So the fact is we can't not put our pictures of our kids online. That's how we share. That's how human beings do stuff. Right. But there's a great little thing called an expression engine. So I can take a picture of you, Constantine, and I can put it in the engine, and I can now zoom as if I'm you. Literally use your face, and when I talk, it uses your mouth to talk my words. And then Google and others have, if I have 3 seconds or 5 seconds of your voice, I can get my voice modulated to being your voice. So I can look and talk just like you. And a huge security issue that's going around right now is people finding, their kids' picture and voice and calling the grandparents and saying, I'm with, like FaceTiming the grandparents with the face and the voice and saying, I need $500 sent to me right away because I'm in a dangerous situation.
And that's so scary, man.
Right.
Like that's so scary. I've seen videos of like Donald Trump, and he's saying even though he's extreme in a lot of stuff that he does, but going so extreme only to realize that was fake. That was not him. The fact that someone can take that and manipulate that or ask. Or prompt to kind of change it. It's to me, it's mind blowing, and that's when I'm thinking. I'm not trying to think of like a bad guy does, but you can do things here that could, create a lot of tragedy.
I mean, I'm just going to say this. So politics for the next 2 years, I want to curse. This is going to be a disaster, just a disaster. I mean, people putting pictures out with, doing stuff that didn't actually happen and everything. How we're going to get that under control, to be honest, I have absolutely no idea. Okay. And think of all the other implications. If I can pretend, I was actually playing this morning with my team, where if I don't feel like showing up to a Zoom meeting, I'm just going to have myself show up, or I can pretend to have other team members show up, or we're throwing a party in a month and we're going to actually have a Zoom with Obama. Yes. So you can show up and actually talk with Obama and use ChatGPT and the way he speaks and his voice and his face. Can you imagine all of the implications to that? Yes. This is far beyond somebody's signature. They're stealing, like we can steal people's faces.
But that the question that I pose is what is real anymore at that present moment? Like what is considered real? How can you authenticate thing? Is this actually really real? Am I getting real information? Is this news real? Like it starts coming into a place now where you start doubting everything.
Well, fortunately, in the security business, you guys are all cynical.
We are.
I'm not sure the rest of the world is cynical enough. Like you guys at least have a modicum of cynicism, which is, I think, you guys have the most protection, and you don't believe people when they walk up to a bar.
That's right. So
that's
CRD.
That's CRD, exactly.
Yeah.
So how we're going to all handle that? I mean, the idea of signing a blank piece of paper, we were talking about this before. I've seen people now selling their 3D images in return for headphones or something like that. I mean, ridiculous. Do not be selling your 3D image because anyone can now use that for all sorts of security implications.
Absolutely. Since we're on the whole element of security implications, what are some things that you could see? And I'm going to put you on the spot, but that you could see that could become cybersecurity or security issues, or that could create like issues for law enforcement potentially at the rate of the technology growth that we're seeing right now. Because a lot of times, a lot of practices that like law enforcement or security or anything in protection have to put into place are more things that we see in real time. But you're never really factoring that something that could start online, it can create some sort of social media that could create someone to go out and do a reaction, or like you just don't know where all these things are moving, and how do you prepare for it as a society? One example that I'll give you while you're thinking about it, okay, is that one of our companies provides residential coverage, and we were just told by another entity that they're coming out with this technology that connects with Chat GPT, and what it does is that if somebody needs allowed entry into the residence, instead of having an actual physical person that would be there to greet, hey, hello, Bob, how are you, welcome, it would be a machine right now, and they would just kind of scan your information or your facial, recognition technology, and then off you go into your residence. If something was becoming a problem, let's say a fight breaks out, or you need some sort of protection or emergency service, at that point it would alert, the technology would alert now and send in an actual physical person to come deal with something, right? So that's something that we're hearing now in 2023, and Chat GPT just came out, right? So if this is kind of talked about right now, we've heard people say things like the fear of losing jobs to AI. That's going to be a different question. But for this one, what are some things that you could see that potentially could become, and this is all theoretical, right? It could be, but things that it wouldn't surprise you if this happened.
Yeah, listen, you just asked like 25 questions. We could probably talk for like the next 4 days just about that pile of questions. Yeah. I almost want to handle the last question first. So why don't we start there, which is, is everyone going to lose their job? Okay. So, and I've done a whole bunch of talking about this. So, there's all these articles, the Globe and Mail puts out, I think 300 million people are going to lose their jobs. The reality is 300 million people's jobs are going to change, period. But I don't know the exact stats on this, but 100 years ago, 60% of Canadians were farmers. And 50 years ago, 40% of Canadians were farmers. And now 0.6% of Canadians are farmers. And there's not less Canadians, there's more. So it doesn't, people aren't losing their jobs, they're just doing different things. So the things that people used to do and the way we used to do it, that's got to change. But that happened with the internet. Yes. That happened with electricity. That happened with, our society keeps going through these massive changes. And I have to say, humans are really great at changing. Nobody wants it, but we kind of just force ourselves into the change. Right. And so the question is now, how are we going to leverage these technologies and get ahead of them? Because, for example, the concept of a digital concierge, where you show up and there's a screen there where the person says, hello, how are you? Yeah. Instead of a person. Yeah. And this is a classic thing. There's going to be a huge shift in this, for example, for technical support and customer support, where if you have 1,000 technical support people, you can replace them with one ChatGPT instance. I've got all sorts of examples. There's a great online tool called I Am Sophie.
Okay, yes.
I think I
remember you
showed
showed
in
that.
February.
That's insane.
Super cool. It's like an actual head of a person, looks like a person, and they're just answering from a pile of information, and they can answer faster and better than a human being can, to be honest. But the problem is, they can only go so far, right? They're going to only be able to answer so many things. A better example is in medicine, right? So ChatGPT is better than 95% of doctors at differential diagnosis, which is, I come in and I say, my elbow hurts. Well, a doctor's going to say, take an aspirin, call me in the morning. You probably just bunked it. Where actually I could have cancer, I could have all these other things. So what you really need to do is play with the elbow, feel the elbow, ask questions, et cetera, until you get to a diagnosis or what the possible diagnoses could be. So a doctor in the future not using ChatGPT is probably malpractice, but you still need a doctor, right? They still need to understand the things, right? When I was a kid, I was taught that you had to learn all your multiplications times tables, right? Like, this is such an anachronistic concept now, because everybody's carrying around a calculator in their pocket, everybody at all times. So that skill of being able to multiply 5 times 7. I still can't do that in my head. You don't even need that, right? You have a calculator whenever you need it. And even then, when was the last time you even needed to multiply numbers together? It's irrelevant,
it's
right?
True.
But you do need to understand it should be bigger than 5 and bigger than 7 in general sense, and where it's going to be. And so you can sort of call it into, in your head. So when you think of that digital concierge, if somebody comes in and they're a bad guy or a bad person, well, how do I now remove that person from the place? Like, the screen isn't going to remove them.
Right, exactly.
Maybe we could gas the room or something. I don't know. I'm sure we could be creative.
Right.
But you still need a human being to do a lot of the other stuff.
Right.
So the question is, how can you use it, to take a situation and maybe de-escalate it in a different way that a human being would need a lot more training on? But imagine if I could train the human being better using ChatGPT, if I could use ChatGPT or similar technologies, GPT technologies, to do some of the front end work that was a little bit more dangerous, so that we don't have to have them approach the security, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Again, all sorts of options
Well,
there.
some industries sound to me like they'll be safe, and some seem to me like, for example, like, because you're built on like maybe research or report writing or whatever, are going to probably be extinct. Like, I mean, for the most part. Or if you're in a situation where you need like 10, as you said, now we just need one person to do it. You know what I mean?
So again, 50 years ago, not even 100 years, 50 years ago, every business would have 5 or 6 bookkeepers, because everyone was always tracking all their expenses, and you had these double entry bookkeeping things, and everyone had to add everything, and you'd take those up to your senior bookkeeper. Now it got replaced by Excel. And then that's going to get replaced yet again so that entire group of people and all their skills, they had to go do something else. Okay. Now, there's not less people now. There's more people. There's still going to be lots of stuff to do. But are people going to be doing that? No. Right?
Right.
I think this is off track now, but if we think of self-driving cars,
yes,
everyone's like, oh, all these drivers are going to lose their jobs. Well, did people really want jobs as a driver? I mean,
right.
It would be guys.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Let the cars self-drive, and then have people who actually fix the machines and work them, and do other things. There's lots of work still to be done, but just the driving could be done by AI.
Okay. So no, that's great to know that. What do you think an organization should do? If they want to prepare themselves for this realm, right? If they haven't yet even, familiarize themselves what ChatGPT is, how can they familiarize themselves? Because I remember you said something. You said something along the lines of, and if I'm saying something that's off, correct me, please. Something along the lines, you're saying every organization should be trying to find out how they can utilize this. And I think you were saying it more from like to try to like move your business forward so you don't get left behind amongst the competition, right?
Absolutely. And listen, so in the last 6 months since February, you were one of the first people I talked to, oddly enough. I've now spoken, I think, almost 90 times to thousands of CEOs around Canada. And bottom line, it comes down to this, in my opinion. Every organization needs to learn how to use this, like electricity. It's not that it's not going to touch every organization, it will, just that some organizations have less need for electricity than others, but it's going to hit everybody. So the first thing that I do is anyone who's doing anything needs to at least understand what it does. So you go to chat.openai.com and you play with it. And you can have it read a contract for you and ask questions. You can have like just basic stuff to make yourself more efficient. And it's you. So you personally should go try it and play with it. And, have it write you poetry, have it do things for you, whatever it is. Have it write your spouse some love poetry and, have some fun.
You know what we do here sometimes? We get stuck on the title of an episode or how we're going to summarize it. We'll ask Chat, here's what this is about. Can you give us some suggestions?
Yeah, there's no excuse for sucking at any of that anymore.
Exactly.
You have to be good at it.
Exactly. Right? Exactly.
So once you've got that under control, the next thing is to really start thinking about how is the business going to change? Because every business and every industry is going to change a bit. An example you just said, so RFP writing. Like RFP writing just changed. Like every RFP writing mechanism in the whole world. And on both sides. One is you can now write an RFP way faster. So you can now take a few RFPs you've written, find an RFP request, and just plug them all in and automatically write an amazing RFP response. Right. And in the old days, that was a horrible thing, and you picked what RFP you would respond to. Now you can it's all just based on math and how you want to execute. The corollary of that, though, is that the people who are receiving RFPs, they went from receiving 1, 2, or 3 to now they're going to receive 100.
Yeah,
so guess what?
All written in top shape.
All written in top shape.
Which basically means that they will do what I firmly believe they do, and most of the times is that they go by price, right? So if that's a big flag, and if everything else is reading stellar, right, and your meat potatoes are all there, okay, well, what's the price? Oh, it's 3 times higher. Let's go to that one.
I thought RFPs, you throw them down a flight of stairs, and the one that goes the farthest, that's the one you keep?
Exactly.
It's
exactly.
like essays, right?
That's right. That's right. So that's an example, for example, of how something like chat can just completely change the process.
So on the forefront of this, so we had somebody apply to work at Treefrog last week, and I should admit this before I get sued, but we just instantly declined them because it was very clear that the letter that was written was just Chat GPT.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's concentrate. So this is also happening, and I only know this because my kids will tell me this, is that teachers now have access to software within Chat GPT that can actually see if any of their work assignments were written by Chat GPT.
Yeah, so again, that's just a skill. So my son got 100% in English in high school, right? And because of the content that he wrote, like he even put in quotations, right?
Right.
The fact is, as a father, you're probably going to think I'm a terrible father and you're going to hold it against me. But actually, it turns out the teacher was using ChatGPT to mark the essay. And then I talked to the Ministry of Education and they're using ChatGPT to rewrite all of the curriculum.
Wow.
So like, where's the line, guys?
Right,
Like
exactly.
education just broke.
Right.
But
wow.
the skill is to use it properly. So, for example, this person who sent me a letter, he's spelled my name wrong, had the company, what we did incorrect. Like the logic still has to be there. The fact that you can write is almost irrelevant. Right. So the fact that you used ChatGPT was never the point. So if you have two smart things to say and you use ChatGPT to turn it into an essay, the person on the other side is just using ChatGPT to turn it back into two smart things you're going to say, yes, right? So as the point is having the thought. The point is having the critical pieces in play. And if you can't spell the person's name right that you're applying to go work for, you're not going to get the job. Absolutely. I mean, just straightforward, no matter how well it's written. So I in education, for example, you got all these teachers up in arms because they're going to, but this is an irrelevant skill at this point, right? Cursive writing or script writing, like who does that anymore? They don't even teach that anymore. Why? Because you need to learn how to use a keyboard. Right. So do you really need to learn your times tables anymore? I mean, you need to know how they work, yes. But no, you're going to have a calculator with you at all times. Right. So now the assumption needs to be ChatGPT's there, and we need to start teaching kids how to use that properly. Okay. That's my opinion.
Do you think a lot of entities that have like a IT department or have a cyber department have to be continuously evolving in their learning curve for this? Because a lot of times if you go to school prior to November of 2022 and ChatGPT wasn't in your curriculum or nothing of that sort, this is a brand new skill or brand new concept for everybody.
Yes. Right. Yeah, listen, this is a skill everybody has to have. It's like the ability to do math, right? Everyone is eventually going to need to learn how to text and need to learn how to send email, yes. And need to learn how to use ChatGPT. This is not necessarily ChatGPT. I want to say there are all of these other GPT engines that are out there and it's just going to become part of life. Okay. Even so, search is going to become GPT based. Instead of you search and you get like 5 results or hundreds of results, instead you're going to go and it's going to give you the answer. Mm-hmm. And so life's just going to change. Right. And as business owners, as people are doing stuff, we need to just get there with that change.
Okay. Do you see, you made a good prediction 6 months ago or 7 months ago. Do you see the next 6 months to be that same trend of continuation, meaning as in, do you see like, if we talk like, let's say next year, sometime in February, 1 year later now, could you see it advancing even more up to that point?
Absolutely. So it is advancing. I'd say that the place is advancing. Like ChatGPT itself is getting better, but that's not exponential. Like it gets better, and it's not as astonishing anymore. But if you go play with Midjourney or Leonardo or Stable Diffusion and see what they're doing in images, you will be blown away again.
Can you give me an example of what something that would blow me away if I started, tapping into? Because I don't think the audience, just like myself, can understand just how deep this stuff is.
Yeah, listen, I made a music video in a week last week that is just a series of like unbelievably bad dream images of politics that are going on right now. And I made the whole music video in a week for in hundreds of dollars, not tens of thousands of dollars. Yes. And it's mind blowing. Wow. It's honestly mind blowing. It's hard to watch. It's so disturbing.
Right.
And it's just stuff we just asked. We used all these AI tools to generate a music video. So here's an example. So, and this is gonna, we were talking about writers before. This is gonna change entertainment.
Right. So this is for those listening. We were talking about the writers and the actors strike that has been going on since February, actually.
Yes.
Of this year, and it has not backed off. It's going to affect us for a film festival, which is coming up next week. Yes. A lot of talent can't come over. Tell us a little bit about how this is.
So, for example, later, let's go 6 months from now. Yes. Maybe it might be a year, but let's say 6 months from now. I decide, and this will be technically possible. Who knows whether it will be licensing possible. But let's say tonight I decide I want to watch Star Wars. But I want Star Wars to be me as Han Solo, my ex-wife as Chewbacca, my kids as Luke and Leia, and I want I want it to be set in the 1800s in London, and I want et cetera, et cetera. And I can literally watch the movie that way and have a whole other experience with the same rehashed Star Wars theme
right.
tropes. Anyway,
Wow.
that's what movies are. They're just
Yeah.
rehash tropes. I mean,
Right.
I'm kidding, but I'm not.
Yeah, yeah.
But the fact is, imagine if I just had Arnold Schwarzenegger's face, I could literally go make a movie. So there have been movies that have come out in the last 6 months, like my music video, that are just completely generated by AI. I think of the implications of security now. If you can just have some access to somebody's face, you can now go make a movie. You can go make history. You can do all sorts of things. So you can't believe anything that you see digitally anymore.
Right, but who
Period.
owns what? I give you an example. Like, I edited a little basketball video of my daughter playing basketball in the championships last year, and there was a song called by Drake. It was a AI Drake. It was called, right?
Yeah.
So it was actually a very catchy song. I actually like it quite a bit. It's in my playlist. And if I use that, who owns it? It's all made up. Can someone come back and say, "Hey, listen, I created that through AI"? Like, what's copyright anymore?
This is just you should not be asking me this question. I mean, there's rooms filled with lawyers that are trying to figure this stuff out. But I would say this. So Japan, for example, they've come forward and said, look, if you're going to make AI, you can do it wherever you want. And that's just the way it's going to be. That's going to mean they're going to be an economic force. And then you've got Canadians who are like, well, we want to sign original ownership, and how are we going to do that? Because it's truth. Like if I go digging through the pile and find my PhD, my brother-in-law's PhD, and use that, it's not he's not wrong. Yes. It's a fact about hypercritical carbon monoxide. So is that theft? Technically, I should credit him, but I can't credit him because I don't know how the chalk marks got there, right? So that makes it difficult to go who owned it and where did that come from.
Okay.
And so different countries, different places, different ways, everyone's going to be making it up. I got to give credit to Drake, though, because what he said was, yeah, as long as you give me some money, I'm good.
Yeah,
I don't have to do anything. You're just going to give me money? Like,
Exactly.
let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, this is, again, mind-blowing stuff to me. When you do these conversations and you speak to all these CEOs and you kind of, throw it out there, how, if someone is interested in listening, I mean, because a lot of our audience are in the protection world, right? If I'm a police service, if I'm a security agency, if I'm doing something in the protective world and I'm like, how can I get myself ready to do that? Do you help organizations through your company know to adapt into this kind of technology and how to utilize it and make it work? Yeah,
we're doing a ton. So I'm going to say at 3 different levels. One is I personally am going into organizations, or my team is, and just talking about it, just helping people understand the technology. We're also going in and doing hackathons. So we're working with, I can say this, a month ago we went into the Canadian Cancer Society. This is a group of brilliant people who are way ahead of the curve in AI in many cases, but still don't know how to use Chat GPT tactically to just make contracts better, et cetera. So we went in, did a hackathon with them, got everybody lined up, and now they've gone away and done amazing things with it. Wow. So that's the kind of where we'll step in and help. The other thing is we're building tools. So we've got access to this engine. So if you've got a development company,
is it almost like an iPhone and BlackBerry, and you're building an app for it? Is that when you say by the tools?
So we'll go build an app. So an example here, I'm just going to come up with one off the top of my head here. So you've got someone who's standing at a door, doesn't know how to react to what somebody is saying. So we record what somebody is saying on the iPhone, have it automatically come up, and have the app suggest what the person should say to de-escalate the situation in case they're getting internally.
Wow.
A little. So imagine that with police officers on the front lines. If they're like, I don't know how to deal with this person is losing their mind, what should I do next? It could literally come back and say, look, do one of these 3 things, say one of these 3 things, ask one of these 3 things.
Do you know what I'm thinking about? Do you know what movie I'm thinking about right now?
No.
Demolition Man, where they're.
I'm not that old.
Okay. That came out like in 94, 95, I think it was. So there's a scene where they basically have to make an arrest, and they're asking they have like an iPad prompter almost, and they ask it, and in this case, you must reference section blah, 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 blah. And then they reference it, you must do as I say under section or else. And then, or else you hear the response, it triggers a response. This is what I'm hearing right now.
Yeah. So we could go build that app virtually by the end of next week, because the mechanism of being able to respond already exists. Okay. And we could take, hypothetically, instead of using the giant pile of what is potentially trash out of Chat GPT, we could go create our own pile. So go through all the previous law enforcement examples of excellent conduct and build something that uses the engine so it knows how to respond, and have it live respond. And it could be an app that you put a microphone and in your ear and headphone in your ear, and it would just listen along the way. I'm making this up. Yeah. But that's the kind of like all of these little things could exist tomorrow because these engines exist that we can now build with that didn't before.
So for example, a lot of case law, when you're talking the legal system, any case law that is established, and usually you can reference it, but sometimes if you're doing research, you can literally say, pull up this Sean versus the Queen, 1994, but it can just pull it up in 2 seconds, pull out this, like it could really, you can train it.
Let's unpack this for a second. So a great example is there's a lawyer in the United States recently who went out and used ChatGPT to write the lawsuit and just filed it as is. Yeah. And the problem is ChatGPT just hallucinates everything because it doesn't know where it got it from. Right. It's just chalk marks on a floor. So it will reference something, but the references aren't real, right? So what happened was he got fined. As a minor fine. It was like $3,000 or $5,000, which to a lawyer is nothing, for a completely inappropriate filed case. However, it wrote the whole case. So now you can do is write the whole case, and then you can ask in the future, and this is what they're working on right now, is to try and find all those citations and connect all the citations. So once that citation part works, and this is I think Google came out with a GPT model way before, probably has one that's as good, if not better. Their worry is, how can we make sure that we cite stuff? Now, and there are all sorts of now special sauce law examples. I've literally boatloads. There's a great website, thereisanaIforthat.com. Okay. And what it'll do is you can go and you can say, give me all the ones that can help me with law or contracts, and it will be using the engine, but then it will go do the citations for you, or find the case law, or find the history. Wow. And so it's other people using this engine that are going to now make the world hugely different in the next year.
It's almost like you have that information. How can it's built on the fabrics of accuracy now, right? It's almost like you're getting a speeding ticket or hitting a red light, and they have their pictures of you passing the red light. It's like, how can you escape that? How can you defend that? Like it's like it's on the other side of it. You have information that's factual. If you're doing citations, in my mind, I'm thinking like law enforcement could have it set up where they have to write in their notebooks. Every single time they got to write in their notebooks. Well, you can create systems in place that can digitally create everything for you, and it's all archived and it's all accurate. And you can actually create rules to make sure you don't tamper with it once you write it. Because that would be the first thing a law enforcement would say is, well, the reason why you want to write your memo book is because what you write in there, if you cross it out, initial it, they want to make sure you don't go back and tamper. You're filling every line in the book. But you can create rules to say that once you write it, there's no erasing. Like, there's so much things you can do.
I love it. Or an example, we could just take the recording of this podcast and we could put it through ChatGPT and say, give us the 5 bullets of this podcast and give us the 3 things that were most important of this, and say 3 things that Sean said that are stupid or wrong. And it would tell you all of those things.
Wow, man.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can imagine if you recorded an officer all day and then went back at the end of the day and said, 3 places that you could have improved are here, here, and here. This is why humanity is just going to get better all of a sudden. Like, a lot of what we've talked about so far today has been a little bit pessimistic. Yes. I'm not pessimistic. Okay. I am crazy optimistic. Okay. Let's go back to education. Okay. So all of us sat for 3, 4, 5 years in school with our heads in the desk, bored out of our skull, listening to stuff we'd already learned, or we could have learned faster because there are other people in the class that weren't learning it as quickly. ChatGPT is going to change all of this. Education is going to become, which we've already now started working with at Treefrog with different organizations. We could just say, here's the pile of information that I need to know. Work with me until I know it all. And it will ask me questions, give me things to read, give me things to write, and I can read and learn at my own pace, which is hypothetically going to be much faster than I was learning before. And it can take all of my dynamic feedback on the fly and give it to me better. An example would be, it literally can take my mother tongue, the language that I would rather hear this information, and translate it on the fly. So now I can hear it and understand it in my mother tongue, which I couldn't necessarily do before.
Okay.
So, one of my favorite examples of this, I'm trying to find somebody who will buy this, is I was in a cab the other day, and the person driving the cab was a surgeon, but not obviously a Canadian surgeon.
Right.
Had come in from another country as a surgeon in another country, and was missing some techniques. An example is they probably were very good at removing bullets from people, not so good at dealing with frostbite.
Yeah.
Right? So, should they be a doctor here in Canada? It's a good question, because if somebody starts up with frostbite, how are they going to deal with it? What we need to figure out what the delta of what they don't know, so we can train them on that difference really fast and then get them up to speed.
Right.
Can you imagine how this is going to change the world? Like, it's just there for the taking.
Right. Wow. Look, to me, this is like a mind blower as it continues to evolve. So if someone does connect with you and they do go over their assessment, you would just basically take them along the journey of what they need. And this is where the tools come into place, where you can say, look, for what we can do is we can build you this tool for your business that will work with how you want ChatGPT to work for you. Is that kind of how the setup would work?
Yeah, so different organizations approach us for different things. So if you just wanted us to help your company embed, like get using AI, you come to us and we just help you get using it. If you came to us and said, we actually want to innovate, we want to change our industry, or we want to build an app or build something that will radically change, then we have the developers to go build you something.
Okay.
And so there's two sort of sides to Treefrog that way. And if you built your own cool thing using one of these engines, you could come to us and we could help you find investment and help you find, people to get it out there and help you with marketing, et cetera.
Interesting. Sean, how do people find you?
Oh, go to treefrog.ca.
Okay.
So treefrog.ca. Or if you want to hear my music, go to Spotify, type in Sean, S-E-A-N, Stevens, S-T-E-P-H-E-N-S.
Amazing. So I think any organization or person listening to this, and I'm gonna specifically talk to the organizations. Sean works with many corporate entities. He works with police services. He works with a whole slew of individuals that have started to, if not already, adapted to kind of this stuff that we're talking about today. And I think it's important that you don't be like my mom, who still uses a VCR and can't find a videotape. It's important to move forward and go with the flow, or else, I think you could be putting yourself at a major disadvantage. A lot of the stuff that you're talking about, it'd be probably fun for us at some point next year to look at this as a reference point to kind of see how much has actually changed. What would be some words of wisdom? This is the words of wisdom segment right now from Sean to any organization listening, and how they should be looking at this to make a good move for their organization to move forward.
Yeah, so words of wisdom are, this is an inevitable thing. You can't go hide under a bushel. You can't stick your head in the sand. You have to accept the fact that this is going to change things. The organizations that adopted the internet early, not every industry adopted the internet at the same speed, but every industry uses the internet, period, now. If you have to.
Exactly.
Right? Even ice cream stores.
Yes.
They use it for selling ice cream, identifying, getting whatever it is. Mm-hmm. You need to go find the ways that you're going to use this technology. And so, every organization has to decide, are they going to be ahead of the curve or behind the curve? But in this case, this is a civilization-changing thing. So you're going to start losing your people. You're going to start losing your edge. You're going to start losing your business if you don't take it seriously. And that can be just play with it yourself, figure out how you might use it. And lastly, go to ChatGPT and type in, how will ChatGPT disrupt, and then type in your industry. And it will give you 50 ways that it will destroy you or change you. And you can go literally just work through one at a time. And there's your strategic plan for the next 10 years.
Wow. That right there, if anyone you just got some free information that, you could have 100%. Exactly. I will pay on your behalf. Have we done that test, Matthew?
We haven't.
Okay. That I think that could be a podcast on its own, is that we just pulled up and we can kind of go over that of how it will shift it. I think that's amazing. Amazing. Look, man, as you said, a lot of the questions that I asked, and we could go hours and hours talking about this. It's infinite of how it's moving. It's amazing, scary, all these emotions in one, right?
And beautiful.
Exactly. Yes. So I love that. I also do want to go into what you do to kind of completely flip it, and that's the creative element of yourself now when it comes to music, right? So for yourself, how did that kind of come into the mix? Like, is that something that you've always had, this desire? Like, I wanna just let the world hear my music.
Yeah, so I should admit I'm not using AI for the writing of music. Actually, that's not true. You know what? Now when I write, I can't not use ChatGPT. It's like it's sort of like I couldn't not write without Microsoft Word or something else. It's just, I'm thinking it's really good at rhyming and finding words and finding concepts. So as I write, I have a degree in poetry.
Okay.
I still use ChatGPT to come up with ideas and concepts and get it, just make it better.
Right.
So it's enabled me to write faster when I'm writing music and writing concepts. I don't use AI music generators yet, but I'm using AI to promote music and, on TikTok and other crazy places.
Amazing.
So that's really fun.
Amazing.
But honestly, I've been writing and playing music now since I was a kid.
Okay.
And I needed to start making money at some point to feed my children because, musicians don't make a lot of money.
Right.
And so I got into the digital world in the late 90s. And at this, I would.
So you do know Demolition Man. No?
Oh, I do know. I was just teasing. I love that movie.
Yeah.
I still figured out what the 3 shelves
Yeah, I
were.
know.
So, I used to play at Lee's Palace, till 2:00 in the morning, and then you couldn't start a job at 7:00 in the morning. I needed to be able to have a job that could start at 11, and I could work my own hours, and that's why I started Treefrog, joined Treefrog, and eventually bought it. And so where I stand now is I'm my kids are older. I can go play rock and roll again, so I'm playing rock and roll and making music on the weekends and stuff. And in the last I started a TikTok account, which is hilarious, 5-6 months ago. And I think it was 6.3 million people have seen my TikTok account, which is insane.
Yes.
And it kind of blew up I guess it was about a month ago. And I think 25 million people went and listened to my music. So I don't know. It's hilarious.
That's amazing. No, but listen, I'll tell you, there's something, like I love connecting with creatives. And in general, you guys bring something that is needed. It's needed. That's the bottom line. It's needed. And, you always get surprised. For example, Kevin O'Leary, if you ever watched the show Dragon's Den, he's a musician as well, right?
Amazing.
Yeah. So to me, I think, and that's the other side of it too. So I'm very, very, eagerly awaiting for you to play something right now. Is there anything at all you have in mind? Is it a song about like security or
a song about security? I haven't written a song about security. Actually, give me a computer. I got Chat GPT. I'll pull it up.
No, but what something that you want to share that what inspired you behind it, and I would love to hear it.
Yeah, you know what? So the song that's been going crazy lately that everyone's been asking me to play, and I literally have not once played it acoustically. So there's, if you've listened to my music, there's no real genre. That's a major problem.
Okay.
I kind of go between pop, punk, alternative, and suddenly I'll throw, like any genre will do for me, which isn't good as a musician. As a musician, you need to pick, I'm a jazz musician, or I'm a pop musician, and do it all day. But listen, I'm not here to make money. I'm here to make music.
Right.
So, which is how most music is done. So this song, I wrote a song called Rectangular. It literally is from a meme that I saw on Reddit, which is somebody trying to put a shape in a box. So it's a box shape. And in the shape, they're trying to sort of fit into this one hole, which is a rectangle hole.
Right.
And they're just throwing in whatever shape, and it all goes in the rectangle hole. And I realized this sort of made me think, I'm just this strange shape that I'm unlike everybody else, and a lot of people feel that way. That they just wake up in the morning and go, I'm not like everybody else.
Right.
I'm a little bit different.
Right.
And I'm looking for,
you're not cookie cutter.
I'm looking for my other person. I'm looking for the person that fits me. So
amazing. I love it. Well, I'm really much looking forward to it. And before we do, again, I want to thank you for coming onto the show.
Thank you.
I really appreciate what you've been able to bring to the table. I love the fact that you're educating and people are becoming aware of this, like myself, for example. And again, for us, since that conversation happened back in February, that talk, we've already started utilizing within us. It has started saving us money and also put us in a better position to win. So thank you very much for that, Sean. Treefrog.ca.
You got it.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to jump into this next segment right now. Thank you very much. Sean, looking forward to it. And have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
I am rectangular. I feel it in my bones. I am rectangular. I feel no hole. I am rectangular. And you are a circle. I am rectangular. I'm a lost soul. My whole life lonely, trying to find the promise to me. I'll hit the bottom, touch the sky, searching for the one who is mine. I am rectangular. I feel it in my bones. I am rectangular. I I fill no hole, I am rectangular. And you are a circle, I am rectangular. I'm a lost soul, I'm holding on by a thread, holding down life before dead. I'm waking up, pushing through, don't know how I find you, how I find, I am rectangular. I feel it in my bones, I am rectangular. I fill no hole, I am rectangular. And you are a circle, I am rectangular. I'm a lost soul. Thank you guys. Peace and love.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.